May it please the court, my lady. Morning.
My lady.
Morning, my lady.
Morning, my lady.
Nelisiwe, may you please call the matter on record?
Thank you, Judge. Today is the 12th of September, 2022. Calling the matter of Life Esidimeni Inquest, case number I-001 of 2021. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you very much. Yes, Mr. Late.
Thank you, my lady. The next witness that will testify is Dr. Esidimeni. His evidence will be led by his legal team, as the court pleases, my lady.
Thank you.
Thank you, my lady. My lady, Dr. Esidimeni is at the offices of Ramsey Weber. He is obviously going to be on screen. He has with him in the same room a candidate attorney by the name of Ms. Carly Duprier, who has a separate laptop with case lines on it so that Ms. Duprier is able to assist Dr. Esidimeni to locate documents as and when required. And, my lady, should it be necessary for Dr. Esidimeni to leave the stage, as it were, then Mr. Priya will request him to leave the room so that he's out of earshot while whatever matter has to be discussed is discussed. And when your ladyship gives leave for him to return to the room, he will be called back to the room. So those are the arrangements that we've made, my lady.
Thank you very much. Where is Dr. Esidimeni? Is he
I would
ready?
expect him to. Yes, I understand that he's ready. My lady, he does not require an interpreter. And so as soon as he's under oath, I will commence leading him.
Good morning, Doctor.
Morning, Judge.
Nelisiwe, may you please swear him in?
Thank you, Judge. Doctor, please state your full names and
Just
surnames.
before you do that, can we get the full names of the witness?
Thank you, Judge. My name is surname Selebano.
Yes.
Tiego Ephraim. But
Tiego
Ephraim. T-I-E-G-O Ephraim.
I've got it.
E-P-H.
That's fine.
Yes.
You may proceed, Nelisiwe.
Thank you, Judge. Doctor, please state your full names and surname for the record.
My name is Ephraim Tiego Selebano.
Do you have any objections to taking the prescribed oath?
No, I don't have.
Do you swear that the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I swear.
Please raise your right hand and say, "So help me God."
So help me God.
You are hereby sworn in. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you. Doctor, there are things that before you testify, I want you to understand.
Yes, yes, Judge.
Because you are an interested party in these proceedings, I need to explain to you that as you have been called to testify, questions will be put to you for you to answer. If the answer to the question or questions will likely incriminate you, you have the right not to answer that question and tell the court accordingly that you will not answer the question for fear of incriminating yourself. Do you understand?
I understand that, Judge.
Thank you very much. You may proceed, Mr. Watbringle.
Thank you, my lady. Morning, Dr. Esidimeni.
Morning, Advocate.
Dr. Esidimeni, first of all, now that we are in session, the form of address of her ladyship is my lady or your ladyship. So if you address the judge. And then secondly, although I'll be putting the questions, you're actually not answering me, you're actually answering the judge, if you see what I mean. In other words, you're giving your evidence to the judge. And the same applies when others cross-examine you.
Okay,
all right.
If I may interrupt, the other thing, please listen attentively to the question when you answer, if you want to elaborate on the question, just listen. If the question needs a yes or no, you just answer yes or no. And if you want to explain, don't be too fast because people will be taking notes and the court has to listen to you and also take notes. Thank you very much.
I understand, my lady.
All right.
Thank you. First of all, Dr. Silabana, I want to take you to case lines page 1522, which is where a warning statement appears.
Just bear with me.
1522.
That's correct.
It's docket 15221 1522. Okay. I think I've got
Just
it.
bear with me. The court is still accessing case line.
I got it.
Page 1522. Yes,
Yes,
I'm there.
yes, my
You
lady.
may proceed, Mr. Wortbrinker.
Thank you. Now, that document, including an affidavit by you, Dr. Silabano, runs to page 1542. You were requested to make a warning statement by the South African Police. Is that correct?
Yes, advocate, I only have 1522 here. South African, I can see South African Police Service. How I'm trying to find other pages.
Well, if you just
Okay.
scroll down, you'll see the other pages.
Is that
You
where-
said up to which page, Council?
Up to 1542. Up to
All right, thank
1542.
Okay, I'm at 1523, so I know how to go there. Okay.
Yes. So, yes. So the I'm not going to take you through the SAPS documentation,
Okay.
where they warn you about your rights and so forth. And then if we can go to 1540.
How do I quickly rush there? Next.
You know how to type in the number and just press enter and it takes you straight there.
No, I don't think I know how to do that.
Well, Mr. Priya should be assisting you on that.
Yeah. Life Esidimeni. I've messed up. 15.
40.
Maybe I jumped. 1546 is here.
Dr. Silabana, I'm not quite sure what's going on there. At the top of case lines, it says find, and if you tap on find, then it opens a window. Then you type the page number in and you press enter, and it takes you straight to the page. It's very simple.
Can we ask also one of your legal in your legal team to just display it also on the screen, just to save time while the other person is assisting you?
I don't know whether anyone in my team has that ability, but I can find out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I'm not
Is
sure who
he
is
still
assisting you.
struggling to get the document?
15.
Are you on that page, Dr. Sullivan?
I was in the page your my lady.
How did you, the same way you used to get the previous page? You must look at page 1540.
540 plus 15. Where is it? Wait, you're passing it. 1546. 43. Where is it? 15.
Are you at 1543?
Well, yes, I am back nicely now. I just need to scroll quickly to the page.
Yes,
we
just
can
go
scroll here.
up if you are
Scroll.
on. Yes.
Yeah. Page is that now?
Is there someone assisting you?
Yes, I've asked Carl to assist so that I don't waste your honest time.
Okay.
I think I'm getting it. I'll get the hang of it. Your
Sasha, are you there also to assist us? If possible, to display that on the screen.
Well, yeah, I'm seeing it on the screen.
Okay,
It looks
yes,
like
I
Ms.
can see
Marriott's
it. It's
assisting
there.
us.
Thank you.
Where
Dr.
is it?
Celebano,
Okay. Yes,
Are
I'm
you
at
familiar-
1540. Yes.
are you familiar with this statement? It's a fairly short statement. It runs to 1542.
Advocate, I'm familiar with the statement.
And do you confirm its contents?
I confirm its contents.
Thank you. Milady, I understand the practice has been to enter these as exhibits.
But the
These-
statement, if I can find out, this it's part of the record, isn't it? Or do we have to?
It is.
Okay, Mr. Late, do we have to mark it as an exhibit? Because I think
My
it's.
lady, we have up till now with all the other witnesses marked it as exhibits.
Okay, that's fine.
To get all the verbal evidence statements together in one package, madam.
So I'll have to go back and look at the last number. No?
Perhaps Mr. Late has that number available for you, Milady.
May it please the court, my lady, if my recollection serves me right, the last exhibit was HH2. And that was during
HH2.
2.
Can we confirm it with the others, Mr. Van Bergen?
That was during the evidence of Miss Nyatlu.
Okay, let me just verify it quickly while
Thank
I
you, my lady.
hear
That's how I have it as well,
HH2.
as your ladyship pleases.
I agree,
So-
my lady.
Thank you. Then it means we must go to I. Am I correct? I.
My lady, I would suggest let's rather make it J. I
Oh,
causes
J, before
confusion
I.
sometimes with 1.
Come again?
My lady, I would suggest make it J or JJ, my lady.
We skip I because we're going to have I. So your problem is it looks like 1.
Yes, my lady.
Is that
Sometime-
in order, Mr. Late?
It's in order, my lady.
Yes. Is there any objection to the handing in of the statement?
There's no objection, my lady.
My lady.
Thank you. The statement of the witness, as it appears on case line pages 1540 to 1542, it's admitted into evidence and it is marked Exhibit JJ2. Oh, it should be JJ1. Apologies. The statement is admitted and marked Exhibit JJ1.
Thank you, Milady.
Sorry, my lady, to interrupt. Shouldn't the warning statement then be rather marked JJ1 and the statement on page
Yes, we also have the warning statement. Just a second.
as
Thank you,
JJ2?
Mr. Pienaar. The warning statement starts from page
1522
to 1538.
539.
1539. Okay.
Yes.
Um,
And then JJ2 would be 1540 to
Correct.
1542.
My apologies. The warning statement of the witness as it appears on case line pages 1522 to 1539 is admitted into the record and is marked Exhibit JJ1. And just before I do that with the warning statement, is there any objection to the handing in of the warning statement?
No objection, my lady.
Thank you. The warning statement of the witness as it appears on case line pages 1522 to 1539 is admitted into evidence and it is marked Exhibit JJ1. And the statement of the witness as it appears on case line from pages 154 to 142 is admitted into evidence and it is marked Exhibit JJ2.
As the court pleases.
Thank you very much, Ms. Merritt. You may proceed, Mr. Wardbringle.
Thank you, my lady. Dr. Silabana, I want to start by dealing briefly with your qualifications and your work experience prior to your appointment to the position of Head of Department of the Department of Health, Gauteng Province. Is it correct to say that you have a BSc in honours before you embarked on your, with honours before you embarked on your medical degree?
Correct, Advocate.
And that you obtained at the University of the North
That's right.
in about 1990.
The honors was in 1990, yes, in biochemistry, yes.
Yes.
From the
And-
same university.
From the same university.
So your BSc and the honors degree from the University of Limpopo, the former University of the North.
That's right, your ladyship.
Yes, continue.
And after you'd graduated with your BSc honours, you worked for Lever Brothers in Melrose for about a year, is that correct?
That's correct.
And then you went to Medunsa in order to study medicine.
MSHB, that's correct, Advocate.
And you achieved your HBSc. I get these acronyms very badly wrong.
MBCHB.
You achieved that when?
1996.
And then you went to Tembisa Hospital and you did an internship there, is that correct?
Internship there, 1997.
Yes. And then after your internship year, you were in private practice in 1998 and you also worked part-time at the Tembisa Hospital, is that correct?
That's correct.
And then, so you maintained that occupation for a time, and then in 2004 to 2006, you worked in corporate affairs for the SA Medical Association, is that correct?
That's correct. Advocate.
And the SA Medical Association is a voluntary association of medical practitioners, is that the position?
That's correct.
All right. And then from 2007 to 2009, you worked for the Netcare Group as a hospital manager of the Rand Clinic.
That's correct.
All right. And then from 2010, I think it was, to 2013, you were employed by the Gauteng Department of Health as the CEO of the Johannesburg General Hospital, also known as the Charlotte and Maclerke Academic Hospital. Is that correct?
Yes, until 2013 January. I left January.
Yes. And what was your next position after that?
Then I joined the Department of Health as Deputy Director General in 2014.
And as Deputy Director General in the Department of Health, what were you responsible for?
It was DDG Clinical Services. I was all the COs and were reporting to me of the hospitals. And I was responsible in general to ensure that the clinical services and all the programs inside the department go well. I was responsible for that.
Okay. Just going to slow down a bit so people can take notes. It wasn't long after that you were appointed as acting head of department of the Department of Health, Gauteng Province. Is that correct?
That's correct.
When was that? Was that September 2014?
It was September 2014.
And then when were you appointed permanently to that position?
It'd been the 1st of May 2015.
Okay. Now, who was responsible for your appointment?
Ordinarily, HODs are hired by the Premier, but in concurrence with the MEC.
Okay. And the MEC at that
Just
time
a second,
was...
Doctor, just a second. Yes, continue.
Thank you. The MEC at that time, the MEC for Health in Gauteng was Ms. Tredani Mahlangu, is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. Now, if you could just assist her ladyship, as the head of department, the Department of Health, how did your reporting lines work, if at all, in relation to the National Minister of Health, the Gauteng Premier, and the Gauteng MEC for Health, respectively?
The HOD does not report to the Minister of Health. Neither does the HOD report to the Premier. You report to the MEC, your MEC.
That's all it then. Yes, continue.
Thank you. So what I want to do now is try and elicit from you your duties and responsibilities as the HOD. And since this is not a memory test, and I think anything that you testify on this is probably not controversial, I'll assist you as and when necessary, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong. So you, as the head of department, you were effectively the administrative leader of that department. Is that correct?
That's correct.
You were the top executive, really.
You can say that. That's correct.
What was your role in relation to the implementation of policy?
As the head of administration, I ensure that all other programs, the health policy is implemented.
And is that policy set at national or provincial level, or both?
It's set at national.
And can you tell us what the MINMEC was? MINMEC.
What is that?
MINMEC. MINMEC. It's an acronym, my lady.
M-I?
M-I-N for Nelly.
Yes.
MEC.
N-E-C.
MINMEC.
Okay. MINEC.
MINMEC.
MINMEC. Okay.
Min, yes. Actually, it's called MINMEC, but at that time it was now called NHC, National Health Council.
Can you just tell us what that was? And
briefly, the National Health Council is where all MECs of health in the country meet, and they bring along their HODs, and the Minister of Health and the Deputy Minister of Health also sit there. It's chaired by the Minister.
And what is the purpose of such a meeting?
Broadly, it's to go through, okay, just before that, there will be what is called NHC Tech. It's a technical committee of the NHC.
NHC Tech.
Tech would be technical. It's a technical committee for the NHC. There it's where all HODs of all the provinces in the country sit, and it's chaired by the DG for Health. So before anything can go to the NHC, MINMEC, let's say MINMEC now, it will be processed by the NHC Tech, policy issues, trends, anything that is concerned in the country. It will be processed there. Then the DG will make a preparation so that it's discussed at the MINMEC between the MECs and the Minister.
How frequently were those meetings held?
MINMEC, I can safely say it was every quarter.
Every quarter?
Every 3 months or so, yeah.
And what was the duration of such a meeting?
We would start the morning of Thursday, if I'm not incorrect, I can't recall very well. Thursday, let's safely say from morning Thursday, Friday, and we leave it Friday night, yes.
And was much preparation required for those meetings?
A lot of preparation, yes.
And who had to undertake that preparation from your perspective?
Because of the nature of the discussions, it will be pharmaceutical issues, then the division would do that. If it ARV issues, the ARV division would do that. Finances, the finance division would do that. Across the scope of the department.
Right. Then, moving away from the MINMAC meetings, who represented the Department of Health at the legislature, at the provincial legislature?
Is the MEC who represents the department at the legislature, but is accompanied by myself and all senior managers.
And did the MEC have to appear before the Portfolio Committee for Health in the provincial legislature?
Well, she must, but in her absence, I would do that, but she does. She did.
And if she was present, were you involved at all?
No. I would sit and, literally sit with her to support her.
Okay, and do those meetings require preparation?
Of course, a lot of preparation in terms of the provincial issues, what's happening in the province, what are the programs, and all kinds of issues.
Who in your department was responsible for the annual performance of the department?
There's a planning department which sits and then do the full APP, we call it APP, annual performance plan. But it also talks to all other divisions in the department to say, this was our previous plan, this is the current plan, how do we look forward?
Okay, so that's the plan, but who's responsible for delivering on the plan, for making sure that the plan, in other words, that the department's performance is up to scratch?
Well, finally, it will rest with the HOD because I must ensure that everybody are up to speed and doing their work.
Okay. And then did the Premier have a budget council?
Yes, it was called Premier's Budget Council, PBC.
Was your department represented on it?
Yes, like all other departments, we present our budgets and discussions at the PBC.
And who from your department represented who represented your department and the Budget Council?
We do the preparations, and the MEC would sit and then make a presentation to the Premier's Budget Council. In that PBC, if I may just add a bit, Advocate, all other MECs are sitting there.
Yes, but I'm not clear yet who from your department. So you said the MEC would be there, but the MEC is not part of your department. She's at a political level above.
I hear you. So in this instance, should sit and make a presentation to the Premier.
But would you be present?
Yes, I'll be present.
Would other members of your department be present?
That's right. All senior managers will be there.
Right. And then what is the provincial cabinet lekgotla?
It's when on annual basis, the cabinet, meaning Gauteng cabinet, Your Honor, your leadership, that will be called, where we all sit now as all HODs in Gauteng with our individual MECs, then we sit in the cabinet lekgotla. Sometimes the Premier can even include municipal managers and some such, whatever he wishes. It's where we discuss the projects, all projects in the province.
And how frequently are those meetings held?
I think it was once a year. Once a year.
And the duration of that meeting?
It would take from Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Was much planning that had to go into that meeting?
A lot of planning.
Were you involved in that planning?
I must ensure that, yes, let me answer, yes. I was involved in the planning through my managers.
And then was there also something known as the HOD's committee meeting?
Yes, that's where now as HODs of Gauteng from different departments would sit and having a general view of the province from health across the board.
How frequently were those meetings held?
I can safely say, it's been a bit of time. I can safely say it was also quarterly. It was chaired by the DG of the province.
And the duration of those meetings?
Also 2 to 3 days. Depends on the agenda sometimes.
And did they require any planning of you?
Of course, you got to plan because your colleagues are going to ask, what are your programs, what is happening, how can we help?
Okay. Did you ever have meetings with the deans of medical schools?
Yes. Because of the pressure, the dean that I would always have meetings with was the medical school, Wits Medical School, and the deans of dental schools. I was lucky also to meet with them because sometimes appointments can conflict. So the one in Medusa I would meet, and the one in Pretoria I would meet, and the one that's the dental part now in the medical school is.
What was the purpose of those meetings?
Firstly, with the medical school, we're trying to remember the medical school students, your leadership, train in our hospitals. And so we always have to sit down, plan, agree on HR, agree on all kinds of issues. We're actually, with Professor Martin, we're working on a formal, proper contract that would make a relationship between the Department of Health, Gauteng, and Wits Medical School. We're working slowly, that it takes a bit of time to come to those things.
Thank you. Dr. Silabana, did the MEC have to engage with or have to deal with stakeholder management and relations?
Yes, there were clinic boards and hospital boards. Those are stakeholders. The hospital boards are made up of members of the community, and clinic boards similarly. So just as an example, on those ones, the MEC has to deal with those boards, and I would accompany him.
So did you say you would accompany her?
I would accompany him.
Okay. And can you give some kind of idea of how much of your time and effort this would have taken?
It consumes us because we would probably do it for 2 days, not necessarily any particular day, but 2 days. Because, for instance, clinic boards, there are about 300 or so clinics, and the MEC must sit there and explain what we are doing, how we are doing, what are the issues, what are our challenges, and what is expected of the boards. Similarly with the hospital boards.
So would you see several boards at one time?
No. We would see the clinic boards separately and the hospital boards separately.
Okay, but obviously not individual boards.
Not individual boards, they are representatives. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And similarly, did the Premier engage in stakeholder relations and management?
Yeah, the Premier would move around the province. I think it was called, I'll remember it, Your Lordship, where would accompany myself, the MEC, my senior managers would accompany the Premier. He would choose where he wants to go and talk to the communities there. If they ask about health, we must be there to explain ourselves. If they ask about this, the other MECs and their team must be there to explain themselves.
So are you saying that this was multidisciplinary? It wasn't just the MEC for health and the HOD for health. It was finance and social services, and I mean, I don't know what all those
social development are. Yes, it was all of us going there. Oh yeah, if you don't mind, it was called, your Highness, sorry to this, Ntirisano. Yes, it was called Ntirisano.
And were these held on a regular or an ad hoc basis?
Yeah, they actually increased to almost on monthly basis. Yeah.
And what was the duration of each of these?
The whole day event. The whole day event.
Yeah. So if you were going to a particular place, say for example, Mamelodi, to go and do stakeholder engagement with that community, Would that require any particular form of preparation by you?
Yes, I mean, you go to Mamelodi, you want to know the premier might say what's happening in this clinic, what's happening in that. You got to prepare. You can't take chances. It will be embarrassing.
All right. Then I want to look at the various reporting lines and the areas of responsibility that you had. You had 3 deputy director generals or directors general reporting to you. Is that correct?
Yes.
Come again, that number?
DDG.
DDG.
Just a second, I think I didn't capture you well. Yes, Mr. Watbringer?
Yes, Milady, I was just leading Dr. Selbana.
Yes, I hear that.
Wrong.
I need that
No.
number.
Yes, but I understand there are 3 DDGs. DDG being a deputy director general, is that right?
That's right.
There was 1 for finance,
Finance,
1 for human resources,
corporate services, yes.
and clinical and hospital services.
And then hospitals, clinical services.
Okay, so does corporate services include HR then?
It includes HR, yes.
Okay. All right, and then back in, say, 2015, what was more or less to the closest 1,000, what was the staff complement of the Gauteng Health Department? And when I talk about the staff complement, I mean from cleaners to professors and everybody in between.
I can safely say it was 67,000 plus.
And what was its annual budget in round figures?
46.7 billion. Your ladyship, the figures might just not be accurate, but that would give a good estimate, 46.7 billion.
I just want the magnitude of it. The exact figure is not necessary. And then if we can just quickly run through the various kinds of hospitals. You had 4 academic hospitals, that's correct?
That's right. Yes.
Falling under the Gauteng Department of Health.
That's correct.
And which are those 4?
It was Charlotte Maxeke, Chris Hani Baragwanath, Steve Biko in Pretoria, and Josh Mukari in Garangua. It's also in Pretoria, in Swan.
Right. And then in addition, you had 3 tertiary hospitals.
Yes, it was 1 Tembisa in Tembisa, Kalafong in Atteridgeville, Pretoria, and here Helen Joseph in Johannesburg. Yeah.
So now those academic hospitals are very large hospitals.
Large
correct?
hospitals. As an example, yes, go on, advocate.
And the tertiary hospitals are also very large, but they're not academic hospitals.
They are not. Technically, they are not academic, but they do also get involved in academic activities, teaching of doctors, nurses.
Yes. And then I interrupted you. You were going to say, for example, Baragwanath?
Chris Hani Baragwanath would have 2,888 beds. It's the biggest at that time. It's the biggest.
It would have what would be the capacity, the bed capacity?
Approximately 2,000 at that time, your ladyship, 2,888 beds.
Okay.
That's Chris Hani Baragwanath.
All right. And then in addition to that, you got district hospitals.
District hospitals in different districts, yes.
And then specialized hospitals.
Specialized hospitals.
And community health clinics.
Community health centers. They were called CHCs now. Yes.
All right. So can you say roughly how many district hospitals there were?
The total number of hospitals, you'll have to subtract 4 plus 3, 7, and then there could have been anywhere around 32. 30. So I can't make it out quickly, Your Ladyship, but make it 29, 28, 29.
Okay. Again, I'm not looking for an
Yes.
exact number, just to get an idea.
Yes.
What would be a good example of a specialized hospital?
Okay. There was okay, 3-1. Let me recall 3 quickly. It was Sterkfontein, it was a psychiatry hospital, and then Vescopis, also a psych hospital, and it was Tara, also a psych hospital. In fact, CRCC was also a specialized hospital, the Kalinin Rehab Center, and also there was another one here in Edenvale. It was a TB hospital. I remember the CEO was Dr. Low. The name is just eluding me. It will come back.
So in addition to the psychiatric hospitals, a hospital specializing in tuberculosis is also a specialized hospital.
Yes, and also CRC specializing in rehab.
Rehabilitation, okay. And then the community health centers, do you have a rough idea how many of them there were?
350 or so for the whole province.
What level of care did a community health center provide?
They essentially give primary health care, you know, your vaccination. We had actually gone to an extent where they were able to provide medication for hypertension, diabetes. Yeah, primary health care, basically primary health care.
Okay. And would that include maternity?
Some, not all, some had maternity wards, if I may call them wards. I remember Zola in particular. It has a meaning to me, where they would have a maternity ward. I think also Shawelo, quite a number of them. Not all of them, but quite a number of them.
And would they have doctors as well as nurses, or would they only have nurses?
They would have doctors. They would have doctors.
Okay. Now, who, as of 2015, 2016, was the DDG for clinical services?
Just Dr. Lebet. Yeah. Dr. Lebet.
And what was his area of responsibility?
Well, he had to ensure that he is heading and leading the 4+3 hospitals, the ones that I mentioned, Tembisa, 3, and then the other ones, and also ensuring that all programs, clinical programs in the department go according to plan.
So just to be clear, did all of the aforementioned that we've discussed, the academic, the tertiary, the district, the specialized, and the community health centers, did they all fall under Dr. Lebete?
It was, if I were to explain, it was mainly Dr. Lebete would deal with your 4 academic plus 3 tertiary. Then you would have also the role of district managers also playing a role in district hospitals. That would be dotted lines for Dr. Lebete.
Okay, so he wasn't direct, he didn't have line responsibility for them.
It wouldn't be a direct line responsibility for the other hospitals.
All right. And then there was a chief director of hospital services, is that correct?
Yes, it was a very difficult situation, like I've just told you now, advocate that that's Dr. Lebete. Then you have somebody for hospital service also still dotted to the hospitals, but then you will also have the districts with some form of responsibility for district hospitals.
Okay. And who would that chief director of hospital services report to?
They would report to Dr. Lebete and dotted to me also.
And the specialized hospitals, who did they fall under?
Largely, they were part of the district hospitals, so they would report to the different districts.
Were they district managers?
Chief directors, yes, they were called chief directors.
Chief directors.
Yes.
And who did the chief directors report to?
They would, on a dotted line, report to, like you said, hospital services chief director, and also to Dr. Lebet.
Did they have a solid line, reporting line upwards?
In the real working situation, sometimes they could actually talk to me, but I encouraged that they actually talk to their line function.
Okay. And then emergency medical services, I take it that's ambulances and paramedics. Who did they report to?
They report, the CEO reported directly to me.
Okay. All right. I'm now going to turn to Life Esidimeni. That is to say, the facility Life Esidimeni. I think it's common cause that it, and I say was only because I'm talking about the relevant time, a private facility which belonged to the Life Healthcare Group. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And the Life Healthcare Group owns various private health facilities.
That's correct. That's what I know. Yes. Stop 3.
And patients who were referred to Life Esidimeni, they were paid for by the province.
Yes, it was subsidized by the province.
Yeah. Now, can you just for the purposes of the nomenclature, the terminology, what is an acute psychiatric condition?
Yeah. I'll venture, I would prefer.
Just at a very simple level, doctor.
Okay, it's when acute means at that time when somebody in a psychiatric situation, you're feeling anxiety or depression or anything. It's acute at that time. It's not something that was there before and then you get help. That would be acute. I hope the doctors out there don't fight me, advocate.
Well, as compared to chronic, what is a chronic psychiatric condition?
A chronic would be somebody who, okay, let's start with acute, was on acute, let's say depression and having up and down, and then it's admitted in a hospital and the hospital tries its best. They're unable to they then perhaps discharge you after some time, and then they keep you in medication. Then it would mean you are on a chronic condition. They will make a determination there, the doctors themselves.
So perhaps in layman's terms, if your depression is acute, it's something that's passing. You are depressed perhaps for a particular reason, your personal circumstances, whatever it is, too much pressure on you, but you come through it and then you're not depressed anymore. That would be an acute condition.
That would be a fair description.
But if there was, if you had something, if there was something clinically wrong with you, which caused depression, which was not, which may be treatable but not necessarily curable, that would be a chronic condition.
I would say a prolonged stress, let's say more of unemployment. You are not getting a job, you still have a family to take care of and bills to pay. It puts you in a depressive situation. That would qualify more like a chronic condition. Because if I use that example, if you get a job tomorrow and your situation improves, you might actually get better and be pulled out of the medication.
But if you suffer from a psychiatric condition as a result, for example, of physical brain damage, would that also be a chronic condition?
Yes, but I think the psychiatrists here would want to say that's a secondary one because it's as a result of. It is not necessarily that something that is in you.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes. I was coming to that distinction, and
okay.
I was coming to that distinction of primary versus secondary. So, what is a primary psychiatric condition?
I would like again, I don't want to venture in that space, your ladyship, but I will answer. It's those who, the patient who has that I don't want to use that as a genetic situation, but the patient has that condition. Let me give you a simple, like if you have diabetes mellitus, you don't get it from somewhere, it's within you, the diabetes. So the patients would have a primary condition where you can't point out, well, the doctors now are able to point out imbalance in hormones and all kinds of things. Those patients would be primary. Whereas the secondary ones would be if you suffered a brain injury or you had an infection that interfered, or meningitis, for instance, or brain abscesses. They can tilt you towards a chronic psychiatric condition. Like I said, I don't want to run into that space too much.
All right. Now, in case anyone's wondering why I'm asking you these questions, and I understand you don't hold yourself out as an expert in the psychiatric field. And that's why I just wanted at a very basic level. But can you assist us with this, Dr. Silabano? Hospitals, and there I'm referring to, your big four, your big three, and your district hospitals. How do they approach the accommodation of different kinds of patients? And let me just refine that question a little bit. To what extent are those hospitals equipped and willing to keep patients on a very long term?
By definition, a district hospital wouldn't really be able to keep an acute psychosis patient, meaning your lordship, a patient who's I didn't say, sorry, I said acute, a chronic. They wouldn't want to keep that type of patient because it's more often than not, you'd find that there's no psychiatrist in a district hospital, more often than not. So in that instance, they would like to keep an acute patient that they can take for 5 days and the patient can go home. But your tertiary institutions, your Tembisa, they have psychiatrists, they can hold on together with the academic hospital. They can hold on with the patient, but also they don't want to be keeping a patient for a month, 2 months with a chronic psychosis. They would rather send that patient to a specialized hospital. But also it depends on availability of this and this and that.
So within the full healthcare setup, where would district hospital send a patient when it transpires that the patient has a chronic psychiatric condition?
There is what is called a referral pathway. I can start it with the clinic. The clinic would want to send any patient that they can deal with to a district. The district would want to send a patient that they can deal with to a regional or a tertiary hospital. And similarly, it depends on the condition. I'm not looking at psychiatry alone, your leadership. That referral pathway makes a determination. It's not a rigid thing. It depends.
Dr. Silabano is frozen.
Am I frozen?
So Dr. Silabano, you froze for a while. I don't know if we lost something.
I was saying that there's a referral pathway that would take from the clinic to the district hospital. From the district, might go to a regional hospital, depending on the condition of the patient. Am I still okay?
Yes, you're fine.
Yes, we can hear you.
So I was saying that, so there is a referral pathway, but the end of the road for a chronic patient or a severely ill patient, certainly psychiatric, will be your tertiary or your academic hospitals. It's their expertise.
Okay. Now, but now let's take it to, let's limit it now to psychiatric patients. Where would psychiatric patients who are discharged from a conventional hospital but who still require specialized care, where would they be discharged to? Where would they go to?
Can you just explain it better, Advocate? Discharged from?
So in other words, a psychiatric patient is in is in Tembisa Hospital, and it transpires that this patient has a chronic condition, requires long-term care because they're not able to go home. What then becomes of that patient? Where is that patient sent to, and how's the decision taken as to where that patient goes?
Okay, there are two parts to that. The first part would be if the patient has been discharged, it means the doctors are saying you can cope up without being hospitalized.
Yes.
You can go home and then take your medication from the clinics or have appointments and keep on coming to our hospital. The other problem sometimes is that the type of patient you are, the home is unable to support that patient. So the word then discharge becomes problematic because then you'd rather they would make a decision to say then maybe this patient can benefit long-term treatment at a Sterkfontein type of hospital. That's why I was saying there are two parts to it. So that once you are stabilized at a long-term hospital, then you can go home. Remember, sometimes families are unable to deal with that, or the patient doesn't have anywhere to go.
All right. So that leads me to the next question is, we know that Sterkfontein, Weskoppies and Tara were psychiatric hospitals, but can you just perhaps describe in a little more detail what kind of hospitals they are? In other words, what kind of patients were they able to look after and treat? Just give it a bit more content to the role of those hospitals, please.
Okay, they essentially treat what you described correctly as chronic patients, and maybe even patients who are not responding in a manner that's expected from, let's say, tertiary or a academic hospital. It's taking time for the patient to respond. So the patient needs more time to be in a hospital. So in that instance, that patient goes to Sterkfontein because that's all Tara, or depending on the location, or Weskoppies, because that's where they really deal with those type of patients. The ones who have to stay a bit longer, but also the longer is a determination of the psychiatrist. And in those hospitals, it's purely psychiatrists who are working there with your physios and other people who help psychiatric patients. But also, they also do forensic. They have the forensic side, where if the courts make a determination that you need to check on the mental status of a particular person, they go to particularly Sterkfontein and Weskoppies. They would go there and they would check on the patient and make a determination that your ladyship, this patient, this or that.
Right. And then can you tell us, well, first of all, between Sterkfontein, Weskoppies and Tara, did they have any particular different emphasis on what they treated? I mean, was one particularly for schizophrenia and another one for some other condition?
No,
or they just alternatives?
No, as far as I know, they would treat the psychiatric patient irrespective. As far as I know, they would just treat the patient, whether it's schizophrenia or this or that. They would treat the patient.
All right. Now, having looked at that whole edifice of the various conventional hospitals, if I can use that term. In other words, I'm talking about hospitals other than specialized hospitals. Then we've discussed the specialized hospitals that are specifically psychiatric hospitals. And then we have Life Esidimeni. What circumstances would result in a patient being referred to Life Esidimeni and subsidized by the states, by the provincial government?
I will say this, advocate, that once the three hospitals that I mentioned make a determination that this patient we have treated, I can just give you some time limit, let's say 3 or 6 months, and you are not getting anything out of this patient. It means the patient needs longer treatment. and maybe even a specialized treatment that we think is not breaking through the patient, then they would recommend themselves, they would make a decision to send to Life Esidimeni. One of the reasons is that also they couldn't keep people much longer because the pressure was high. The hospitals were packed. In fact, not only those, all the hospitals in the province packed.
I mean, are there some patients, psychiatric patients, for whom there is literally there's no foreseeable prospect that they'll ever be able to live outside of an institution? Because however one might deal with their symptoms, they require specialized care. Do you get that category of patient?
Advocate, I would be hesitant to jump to that. I think Your Lordship, I think.
Yes, I'm listening.
Oh, okay. I would be hesitant to hazard against the advocate because I wouldn't really want to say that. I don't know, honestly, but it's not unlikely. Perhaps as a person, I wouldn't want to give up on another human being. That would be a difficult one for me.
Okay. No, I accept it's not your specialized area. Now, apart from Life Esidimeni, were there, we've heard a lot of evidence, not surprisingly, about NGOs that housed mental health patients. Were there already in existence a number of NGOs who took care of psychiatric patients who were no longer in the state hospital setup?
Honestly, Advocate, I didn't know that. The only NGO I knew was Takalani because I grew up in Soweto and I knew Takalani. But other than that, I didn't know about that type of NGOs. That doesn't mean
Well,
that it.
Sure. But from what you know now, because I suppose where I'm going with this is, to what extent it can be said that NGOs sprung up in response to the termination of the contract with Life Esidimeni, and to what extent there were NGOs already providing that kind of service at the time.
Yes.
If you didn't know it then, do you know it now?
Yeah, I heard from the colleagues. I mean, the two doctors who came, who were saying that they were working with other NGOs. Dr. Mkachwa mentioned that. And I suppose I heard Dr. Talatala also mentioning that there were NGOs. I don't know if they referred specifically to Takalani or other NGOs, but I thought I heard them say that there were other NGOs.
Okay.
There have been other NGOs.
Right. So now I want to turn to the termination of the Life Esidimeni contract.
Just before we go there, if I may interject, I see it's 8 minutes past 11. Do you want to proceed with that and then we're going to break at 15:15, or should we rather break now?
Lady, I'm in your hands. I can run until 15:15 and carry on. Or...
Okay, let's proceed. That's fine. Proceed.
Thank you. Now, Dr. Selebana, before we go directly to that question, when you were appointed as HOD, what was the department's recent track record in terms of its end of year audit? It's whether they were qualified or unqualified.
The department was, remember I had worked before at Charlotte. And I recall very well that it was during the tenure of MEC Agengatane that actually the department was in, what do we call it? Was done an audit outcome that says, you are in a bad space. And we worked hard. I think it's 2010. It had a disclaimer. We lifted the disclaimer at that time. And then to be direct to as an answer, I think it was 8 years or so where the department never had an unqualified report. In fact, inside there was a disclaimer. So things were tough in the department, I must say.
And in your time, did it ever achieve an unqualified audit?
It's what makes me proud. Doesn't matter, honestly, that 14, 15, we almost got it. There were just matters of emphasis. And then I think I must say this, Advocate, that we were then called, and I think with the MEC, and we were told in uncertain terms that you must get your act together. You must get an unqualified report. And 15, 16, we did. We did.
Your financial year end was the 31st of March, is that correct?
Yes, yeah.
So the unqualified audit you're talking about is for the financial year ending 31 March 2016.
Yes. 15, 16.
And you said that you and the MEC worked hard together on that issue.
Well, I don't want us to, the two of us. We had meetings every Friday, 6 o'clock, every Friday, without fail, from 15 to 16, and we got it.
All right. And how did the Gauteng Department of Health perform against budget at that time? Well, say at that time, I'm talking about like 2014, around there.
We're in a bad space because we're inheriting what is called accruals. Accruals, in simple terms, Your Lordship, would mean that you've got 20 rands, but your total expenditure is 30 rands. So every year you are increasing your expenditure without the capacity to pay. So we're in, I can hazard a guess, in a very, very bad space. Maybe I don't know to call a number, where we're unable to really pay our debtors, and we're battling. And those are the things that were giving us bad audit outcomes.
Did you have meetings with National Treasury in relation to your budget and your compliance or non-compliance with budget?
Yes, the answer is yes. We had something called 10 by 10, where it will be 9 provinces, HODs from all the provinces, with their chief financial officers and everybody around. So, and then we would meet at the treasury. I remember they said there's no new money. You don't expect anything. There's no new money. The state is battling with finances. I think they were not saying that to us only, but health probably is the biggest expenditure in government. So they were telling us in uncertain terms, get your act together. Even the provincial, even the provincial treasury said there's no new money.
And who was in charge of the provincial treasury?
You mean the MEC or the HOD?
The MEC.
Just Barbara Chris during my time, yes.
Okay. All right. And so were you given any? We lost our judge.
Yes, the lordship is gone.
Just wait.
You.
Nelisiwe, are you there?
Yeah.
Counsel, yes, I'm still here. It seems like the judge got disconnected somehow. She's just trying to sort it out. I was just
Well-
talking to her right now.
Okay, it's not for me to call the tea break, but perhaps that would be the best way to use our time. Could you perhaps speak to the
I'll
judge
find
and
out
ask her
with the
for-
judge. I'll find out with the judge.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Since the judge is busy with the IT, I can't get through to her at the moment. I'll just leave a message.
Right, well, Nelisiwe, let's take it on ourselves. I think, should we take the tea break and do you agree?
I think let's just wait a little longer because I can't make that
All right.
confirmation.
Okay.
So the judge just got back to me and she just said we need to break properly. So she's just rejoining and we'll do that shortly thereafter.
Thank you, Nasiba. Are you on mute, my lady?
You're muted, my lady.
Still shows that you're on mute.
Yes, can you hear
There
me
we
now?
go. Yes, now we can hear you. Thank you,
Yes,
my
I
lady.
think my screen was frozen, and now I had to restart everything. Thank you very much.
Lady, may we take the tea adjournment because we've been glued to our screens. We haven't been able to go anywhere.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Silvano, you're reminded that you're still under oath. You need not discuss your evidence with anyone else during our tea break until you finish testifying. Thank you very much. The court will take a tea adjournment for 15 minutes. It means we will resume at, this is now almost 12:30, so we will resume at 11:45. Thank you.
Thank you, my lady.
May it please the court, my lady.
What pleases?
We have now reconvened after the tea adjournment. Where is the witness? And
I'm here, your ladyship. On this camera. Okay, I'm here.
Oh, there we go.
okay, the witness is reminded that he's still under oath. You may proceed, Mr. Wordbringer.
Thank you, my lady. Dr. Celebano, we were talking about budgetary issues and the financial pressure that your department was under. You referred to interactions with National Treasury, as also the then MEC for Finance, Ms. Barbara Creasy. Can you tell her ladyship, were any suggestions made as to how you might deal with your budgetary constraints? How you might deal with them?
Well, the main suggestions really would be the department is inefficient and we must try and find inefficiencies in the system so that we can then be able to pay those that we owe and make reallocations. And this was an ongoing discussion even at the Lekgotla. That was an ongoing discussion.
What kind of facility was Selby?
Initially Selby was for a step-down facility, meaning in hospitals, your ladyship, when somebody is so ill that the doctors feel that it would be helpful to open up a bed, but take this person somewhere where this person can be treated by nurses. But then it evolved into what became a subacute. Again, the hospitals, when there's pressure on beds, they would then take patients from, let's say, in particular, Bara, take them to Selby, so that there are times where a doctor says, I don't know whether to discharge or not. But then you take that for subacute, and then the patient goes to Selby. That was the purpose of Selby.
Is Selby still open?
I should think so. It's still open, but yes, I think it's still open.
Was there any decision taken about Selby at the time that the department was considering inter alia the Life Esidimeni contract?
Yes, there was a decision to close Selby also.
There was.
To terminate the contract.
Okay.
Let me put it that way. Yes.
Okay. And what was the basis for that decision?
The basis was that we felt that we could actually take those patients and distribute them into our hospitals and cease sending patients to Selby.
All right. Now, can you recall how the discussion, which ultimately resulted in notice of termination being given to Life Esidimeni, can you recall how that originated?
Come again.
So we know there was ultimately a decision to terminate the contract with Life Esidimeni, the contract between the Gauteng Department of Health and Life Esidimeni. Can you tell us where that decision originated? Now, where did the discussion first commence, which led to that decision?
The discussion commenced at the Premier's Budget Council.
Come again, it commenced where?
I would say it commenced at the Premier's Budget Council.
Okay.
But even perhaps I could even take it, your ladyship, to say probably it mentioned at the cabinet, cabinet meaning the Gauteng cabinet, discussing this, and then it went to the Premier's Budget Council, and then it came to us meaning myself and the team, to say proceed in the same way as it happened with Selby.
Right. Now, at what level did that decision have to be taken?
It had to be taken at the cabinet level. It had to be taken there.
And who was responsible for implementing the decision?
I think the implementation would be the administration, but it would be brought into the administration to say implement.
That is to say, your administration.
Yes.
All right. Now, can you recall what role you personally played in relation to that decision?
Well, as the head of administration, when that decision came, we sat as managers, MEC, and all of us, budget people, finance people, everybody sat there. And we had a discussion, and a decision was taken that I must then terminate the contract. It was a decision that was taken by the Gauteng team.
Right. Now, there is a project plan. I want to take you to it. It is in case lines, page 20718.
Okay, project plan termination of contract relationship between Gauteng Department of Health and Life Esidimeni and upscaling community-based mental. Is that the one, Advocate?
Yes, that's
Yes.
correct.
Yes.
Are you familiar with this document?
Yes, I'm familiar with the document.
So what was it?
It was just a project plan that was prepared by the directorate for presentation to the team to say we're going to terminate the contract and then we're going to upscale community-based mental health services in the province.
Okay, so do you know who was primarily responsible for this plan?
I would say in two ways. I would want to think it was the mental health directorate, but the presentation was done by Dr. Manamela at the senior managers meeting.
And so this plan was presented to you?
Yes, and it was accepted.
Yes. And if we look at page 20735.
20735.
Page,
20735, my lady.
thank you.
So it's the top of the page says activity plan.
All right.
Then it says the project team and subcommittees embarked on key functions, stating with analysis of MH mental health care users, facilities, family support, psychiatric hospitals, mental health care in the NGOs and the PHCs. What are PHCs?
Should be primary health care centers.
And CHCs.
Yes, community health centers.
Facilities in order to establish where to transfer place the users before or on 13 March. Monitoring and evaluation of progress, challenges and risk were also taken into consideration. And then it has key functions for subcommittees and a whole list of names, and each of which has a mandate or a function. Is that correct?
That's correct. I can see it.
And it goes over to the next page as well.
Okay. That's right.
Yeah. And then if you go to 20745.
0745. Okay.
There you see a time frame.
Okay, yes.
With various parties being allocated various responsibilities.
That's right.
Yeah. So just remind us, at what level was this plan approved?
It was approved at a senior management meeting. Yes, just approved at that senior management meeting. And I signed for it, I think, yes.
Would you have been the most senior? You would have been the most senior manager present?
It would have been the MEC, myself, and the DDGs and chief directors
Okay.
and other directors.
And I take it then you were happy with this plan?
Yes, we're happy with the plan.
Yeah. What was Dr. Manamela's position at the time?
She was a director of the mental health unit.
Okay, and who reported to her?
There was, I think the other ladies, I didn't know them, but they were below directors, and I think I saw them during the proceedings. Also, Fee, and yeah, they were reporting to her, Abu Tobani. Yeah.
I'm just trying to get a sense of what Dr. Manamela's sphere of responsibility was. So, what fell below her in practical terms?
I think as a director, she would have a team. The team would be the ones that either she sits with or they do the running. And then, because they can't all come to a senior management meeting, then she will compile the report and then report it to the senior management meeting.
But in terms of her normal day job, which of the Gauteng health facilities, if any, fell under her responsibility?
I think she was working with the mental psychiatric hospitals and the rehab, and also Life Esidimeni.
Okay.
And
yeah.
Yeah.
And where did Hannah Jacobus fit in?
Where did?
Hannah Jacobus fit in?
I don't know, advocate. I didn't know. I didn't even know her, to be honest.
Okay, all right. All right. So I now want to go to. Well, before we go to any further documentation, you got the plan. You've got the decision. Who was then responsible for putting this plan into action?
Well, there will be several steps. We have agreed on the plan, and the mental health directorate is the one that then implements, operationalize the plan.
All right. So if I can then take you to case lines 18101.
18101.
18101.
Okay. We are there.
So this is a letter dated the 26th of November 2015. It's addressed to the MEC, Bedani Matlangu, to Dr. Manamela, and to Mr. Mkachwa, who was the MD of Life Esidimeni. And it refers to the termination of contract with Life Esidimeni. You familiar with this letter?
I don't recall the letter. I don't recall it all. I don't recall. Unless I go through it and check, I don't recall. I don't recall the letter.
Well, do you want to
read it?
Want to just read through to yourself and familiarize yourself with it?
Just a moment. Okay.
Is it becoming more familiar to you?
The language is familiar. The language is familiar. Yeah.
Okay. So they were expressing some concerns, and they were asking for some sort of transparency and cooperation with the department. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Right. And then if we go to page 18108,
Page 18108.
108.
Okay.
Yes.
We're there.
This is a letter addressed directly to you by Section 27.
Okay.
And they say that they represent SADAG. And they refer to the termination of the Life Esidimeni contract. And they say it'll impact a large number, 2,000 mental health care users. And they refer to a meeting on the 23rd of November at the request of SADAG. So they say it was included Dr. Manamela and Mr. Mosanochi. Mr. Mosanochi was one of your members of staff, is that correct?
He was the project leader, yes.
Yes. And they also expressed their concerns, is that correct?
That's right, yes.
Yeah. They in fact referred to what happened at the meeting at paragraph 8.
Yeah.
They referred to a subsequent meeting that's planned. If you look at 8.1, just for the record, that's at page 18109. Are you with me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
Okay.
we can go to 18023.
803. Okay.
18023.
023. There was an urgent application
Yes.
to the High Court, Gauteng Local Division.
Yes.
First applicant was South African Depression and Anxiety Group.
Yes.
The second was the Association of Concerned Families and Residents of Life Esidimeni.
Yes.
The third was the South African Federation for Mental Health. The fourth was the South African Society of Psychiatrists. And then they cited the MEC, yourself, Life Esidimeni Pty Limited, the Premier, and the National Minister of Health, correct?
Yes, I can see that.
And then if you page down to where the relief is set out in the notice of motion, so that's at 18024. They wanted to interdict the first to third.
Okay.
Okay, paragraph 2, or prayer 2 in the notice of motion, interdicting the first to third response from discharging mental health care users from the Life Esidimeni facilities pending the outcome of an application for the appointment of curators ad litem to represent the rights and interests of these users, the curatorship application, that the relief in paragraph 2 shall lapse in the event that the applicants do not launch the curator application by 31 January 2016. Now, Dr. Silabano, was this matter ever decided by the court, this December 2015 application?
No, it was not decided by the court. I don't, maybe you will correct me there, because we then, myself and the Section 27 leader, Mark Haywood, were having, and also the DG National, we had constant discussions. And in fact, Advocate, some of the discussions, I held them at the offices of Section 27 in Braamfontein. And we agreed, and I said, and also the DG agreed, that there's no need that the court can intervene. We have a common interest here. Why don't we find each other and then do what is best for the interest of the patients? So that is the reason why the three of us agreed that maybe we should do an out-of-court settlement. That's what I'm saying. I don't know if that would feature in as the court.
Yes, that. If we can go to page 18491. refers to the applicants in the urgent application under case number 2015/44348.
Yes.
And then it refers to the application. And then so after the preamble, where it sets out the reason for the application and so forth, if you see on page 18492,
Okay.
about just 1/5 down the page, says, to that end, the parties have agreed as follows. Then it says, paragraph 2, on 22 December 2015, the matter shall be removed from the roll, each party pay its own costs.
Okay.
3, the parties shall forthwith engage in discussions aimed at resolving the dispute between them by no later than 31 January 2016. The parties to the discussion shall include the applicants and respondents to the aforementioned court proceedings. Any other stakeholder deemed necessary to be invited shall be so invited by consent of all parties to the court proceedings. For avoidance of doubt, the Gauteng Department of Health shall maintain the status quo by not placing users from Life Esidimeni facilities in any other facility pending the conclusion of settlement discussions. 5, the outcome of the settlement discussion is intended to inter alia address the plan for the placement of users following the termination of the contract between Gauteng Department of Health and Life Esidimeni. 6, all the stakeholders shall endeavour to reach an agreement plan by no later than 31 January 2016, guided by the constitutional imperatives on the Gauteng Department of Health, and shall at the very least endeavour that users receive health and other services no lesser quality to the services that they currently receive at Life Esidimeni in order to protect, promote, and fulfill their constitutional rights. 7, the parties agree to reserve their respective rights to recourse in the unlikely event of failure to resolve the dispute, which may include, but not be limited to, conciliation proceedings under the auspices of a retired judge to assist the parties to reach a resolution by agreement between the parties. And then 8, notwithstanding anything to the contrary provided herein, each party reserves its right to re-enroll the matter should the settlement discussions be unsuccessful within 10 days of the 31st of January 2016.
Yes.
And then the parties shall release a joint press statement in respect of this settlement agreement.
Yes.
And did you sign this agreement for the department?
I remember very well. We signed the agreement. Yes.
Yes.
I signed.
Cassie,
Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
I signed it.
Yeah. Your signature, it would appear, is at that page 18493 to which I've scrolled.
Yes.
And
that's my signature.
and then Cassie Chambers, who testified in these proceedings, signed for SADC.
That's right.
Okay.
The other group that were in was Section 27. They were there with us when we were signing this.
Yes. Now, Dr. Silabana, were there then negotiations in January 2016 as contemplated in this agreement? You hear the question?
I believe,
No.
yes, it's a question. I believe that the unit, the mental health unit, must have met with SADC because that was the instruction. In fact, I even said it's not captured there that they must also surrender the plan to the stakeholders, all of them, so that they can interrogate the plan and then they can speak with one voice.
From your answer, I take it you were not personally involved in those
No.
negotiations.
I wouldn't add really a lot of value in those negotiations.
Okay. What was, I'm not asking you to give me hearsay of what happened, but I'm asking you now to tell me what your understanding was at the time of what had happened, what had transpired in those negotiations. In other words, what was reported to you at the time?
You mean in
What
Jan?
did you know?
In Jan 2016?
Yeah, by the end of January, what was your understanding of what had become of those negotiations?
At that time, there was an impasse in the negotiations, in the discussions. Let me put it that way. In the discussions, there was an impasse, and that's what I knew, that there's an impasse now.
Okay. Was it reported to you as to what the impasse was?
Yeah, Advocate, I don't recall the actual words, but the impasse would be that the request from the stakeholders was that scrap the whole plan and stop everything. That's where the impasse started from there.
According to your understanding.
According to my understanding.
Okay. Now, what was done by the department and or the MEC to keep track of the implementation of this project, if anything?
Weekly meetings. Weekly meetings. Sorry to answer before you finish your question.
No, that's right. And who chaired those meetings, or who led those meetings?
The meetings were chaired by the MEC. In her absence, probably I would chair them. It would be normal practice. I don't recall if I did, but I would chair them in her absence. But by and large, she was chairing the meetings.
And who attended those meetings?
The DDGs, chief directors, finance, and everybody. We had people from DID, our public works. The HOD once even attended. We had the HOD also attending from social development, and with the team. It was a massive team most of the time that was attending those meetings.
Can I just understand? Were these meetings meetings that were held in respect of which the Life Esidimeni project was one item on the agenda, or were those meetings about?
I didn't hear the last part.
So what I want to know is, were those meetings dedicated to the Life Esidimeni project, or was Life Esidimeni project just one item on the agenda?
It was the only item.
In other words, was it a meeting dealing with broader issues, but including the project?
No, it was just strictly that Life Esidimeni project.
Okay. All right.
You're frozen, Advocate.
And
Mr. Watbringer, I think there should be something wrong with your recording. Can the legal team assist?
Thank you, my lady. I'm going to give him a call now and try and see what's happening. It's Henry Martin here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Martin.
Apologies, my lady. My system let me down there. May I continue?
Yes, you may.
Thank you, my lady. Dr. Celebano, the question I was putting to you when my system lost connectivity was, what feedback was the meeting getting in relation to the progress in the project? In other words, how was it going?
There are two parts. The movement of patients would get reports like why. Maybe I should explain a bit why there was social development. Some of the users didn't have ID. Some of them didn't have SASA cards. So that's why some of those discussions were part and parcel of that. That's the pre. But the post movement, really, it was to say, is the placement going according to plan? That is now, we are in May now, we should be there now, where the placement was happening. And things, the report was saying everything is going according to plan.
Right. Now, there was, if I can just take you to to case lines 1106. Tell me when you're there.
Okay. Wait, I want to read it well. Let's go up.
You have 1106?
Yes, I'm there. I'm just reading it.
So that's it's on the letterhead of the Gauteng Province, 12th of February 2016.
That's
It's
right.
addressed to the MEC. If you scroll 2 pages or 3 pages down, you don't see who the signatory, the person is who wrote this letter. Do you know whose letter this is?
It should be the letter by Mr. Musenufi. I was trying to read through it quickly so that I know exactly I can.
Can he be given the chance?
I just
Yes,
wanted
sure.
to be sure. No, wait, go up. Up again, up. Go up again.
Well, if I may, I'm going to read it into the record, my lady.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, that's fine. All what he wanted to do was to check as to who could be the signatory to the letter. Yes, you may continue, Mr.
yes, if
What
you,
Brinker?
thank you, my lady. So you say you believe this is Mr.
It's not
Masanoki?
Mr. Musenufi, yes.
Yeah. It says, we've attended and listened to the relatives of the mentally affected chronic patients in both Waverley Life Care Centre and the Randfontein Life Complex Care Centres. So if I can just interrupt myself there, those are 2 of the Life Esidimeni facilities, is that correct?
They would have been by name also. I think.
Yeah, because Life Esidimeni wasn't all in one place. There were, as I understand, 4 facilities.
Yes. Rand
Is that
West,
right?
and then Randfontein, I think, and Waverley. Yeah, but I remember Waverley and Randfontein and by name. Those are
Okay.
named. Yeah.
So I'll carry on reading. And the reality is that the project, the way it is going to unfold, may have unintended consequences, resulting in the disruption of mental health services broadly in the province, the disruption of affected families, the disruption of already established academic programs performed at these facilities, and may ultimately result in a loss of skilled mental health workers who are best trained in dealing with vulnerable patients. The lessons from the 3 family meetings at the LE facilities and the follow-up with the parents' committees are as follows, as noted by the managers who were in attendance. Now, if I can just interrupt the reading of the letter. To your understanding, who are the people whose concerns are being expressed here? In other words, which people are expressing concern?
According to the letter, it means Mr. Musenufi is saying the families are the ones that are raising concerns.
Families of the healthcare patients,
I
mental
should
health
say
care
yes.
patients.
Yeah,
Okay.
because it talks about follow up with the parents' committees.
Okay. Then I'll go to the bullet points, which is where I interrupted myself. Most families have not, if not all, have gone through tough times with the patient, resulting in the family being dysfunctional. Most families have used our facilities, e.g. CHBAH, SBAH, Sterkfontein, Westcorp, East Tara, etc., and they've not got the best service, and ultimately their patients were referred to LE facilities. Most families claim that they were not aware, and that it is short notice and would request time extension to implementing the decision. Most NGOs are not sustainable as an alternative to LE partnership. Most families are at relative peace with current situation, and our infrastructure renovation program still at commencement phase may not be fully complete by middle of March 2016. Ultimately, the impact of the policy decision, if affected in the current form, will ultimately result in the following. Then it says, firstly, in the relapse of the most vulnerable patients, as we move them from one place to another, especially into the terrain of NGOs due to the numbers involved in such a short space of time. Secondly, the process will impact negatively to the relatives, as it presumably is going to cause huge shifts in their overall way of life to accommodate new conditions, i.e. each adjusting to live with the patients or enduring change of facilities to NGOs, of which they claim that most were tried or previously lived there, and it was not satisfactory experience at all. Thirdly, the healthcare workers will be unduly affected as most will lose their jobs, especially those with specific care skills, although not professionally qualified, i.e. care assistants, therapy assistants, etc. The other category of workers of whom we have not said much is the outsourced contract workers, i.e. gardeners, caterers and cleaners, etc. In the light of the current economic crisis, most are going to be retrenched. And finally, the academic program at LE facilities, which have undergone fairly strenuous accreditation criteria for training purposes, will not be easily replicated at the NGO level, thus disrupting progress for the various mental health training programs. We therefore, as senior managers tasked to implement the policy decision, propose an alternative implementation approach as follows. 1, let the department extend the process by at least a financial year in the same terms as the ending year, with proviso that we only factor inflationary increases then. 2, begin the negotiations to take over the LE through procurement of the one centre for children, Baneng, and either Waverley or Randfontein complex as a centre for adults, and keep them as provincial institutions in which, together with social work department, we can use for these patients that cannot be moved either to homes or NGOs. The advantage of this is that we can leverage the damage of whole-scale removal of all patients at one full sweep. 3, then over the course of the year, commencing from March 2016, a smooth, deliberate process is undertaken to depopulate the one centre we are not procuring and move patients and qualifying workers to our facilities as determined by audit and assessments. In this manner, we're able to move patients who need to be at NGOs with certainty that they will receive the required care, and those that need to be at home will be moved, having prepared the close relatives properly. Consequently, our own PHC facilities will be ready to handle the increased load of mental health outpatients. And then recommendation, we respectfully request that the MEC to consider the above alternative proposal as made by the senior management team tasked with implementation of LE termination project. The proposal has been discussed and shared amongst ourselves as senior managers, i.e. HOD, DDG, and the LE project managers. All right, Dr. Silabana, do you know whether this, I mean, we see the letters addressed to the MEC. Do you know whether this letter was tabled at any of the meetings?
Yes, it was tabled. Mr. Musenufi raised the matter at the meeting.
And can you recall what ensued in terms of the discussion that followed?
Well, what happened was he put his point across, and I must say it was a meeting of a lot of people. And as he was talking, then the MEC said, "Hey, Mr. Musenufi, are you working for LE now?" And some people chuckled, some people, it was a mixed reaction. And then, but he still went on and discussed and discussed and discussed. And one of the things that I remember was accepted, not even in that meeting, but the extension of the contract was actually done because it was supposed to end March. It then was pushed to end of June.
Okay. It's been pointed out to me by Mr. Martin that the email to which this letter is attached appears in case lines at 30205.
Page
30205. And that is an email from Mr. Masanochi.
Masanochi, that's right.
So it's addressed to the MEC. It's copied to yourself,
that's right.
Mr. Lebete Kuna Kanyisa.
Yeah, she was the PA for the MEC.
And then the letter which is presented, I think, as an attachment at 30206, same letter we just looked at. And actually, if you go to 30208, you see it's got Mr. Masanochi's name at the foot,
Okay.
if I'm reading it correctly.
Yes.
Okay. So Dr. Silabana, just repeat, what was the upshot then of this?
The what?
The upshot then of the discussion of this letter?
It was discussed, and remember, I mean, he had, let me put it this way, he had spoken to me about that. And I said, Mr. Musunefi, you must raise it. And I'm glad I said that I said raise it in the bigger meeting. I can imagine if I said, don't do it, I would be in a bad space now. So I said, raise it in the bigger meeting. He raised it. Some of the things there, he was not correct. He was not right. For instance, saying workers. I mean, some of the workers were absorbed by the department. Maybe he didn't know that because we had a previous project where we were absorbing workers, we were to absorb workers from LE. We had done it before with Selby.
Yeah. Well, the letter raises many issues actually, but I wasn't clear on what your answer was in relation to whether any decision was taken in response to this letter, and if so, what that decision was.
I can't recall, Advocate, that at that time whether then the decision was taken in relation to the letter, but I do recall that some of the things, like for instance, the termination date was pushed forward to end of June.
Okay. Then, if I can take you to case lines 18440, 18440.
Okay.
This is a further application to the High Court. Make sure I've got, yes. So it's case number 08904 and it's of 2016. You can see the court stamp being the 14th of March, 2016. The applicants are again South African Depression and Anxiety Group, South African Federation for Mental Health, South African Society of Psychiatrists, and the Association of Concerned Families of Residents of Life Esidimeni. And the respondents are the MEC, yourself, Life Esidimeni Pty Limited, and Takalani Home. Now, the relief that is sought, if you page down to 18441, is that the matter should be heard as one of urgency, and then declaring that the first to third respondents are in breach of the settlement agreement concluded on 22 December 2015, and that they are planning to discharge users from the Life Esidimeni mental health facilities without having engaged in a meaningful consultative process with the applicants, interdicting the first to third response from discharging mental health care users from Life Esidimeni facilities either to their families or to alternative facilities until such time as the first to third respondents have engaged meaningfully with the applicants and other stakeholders and developed a reasonable plan for the discharge of users from Life Esidimeni, and 4, directing the first to third respondents to provide to the applicants information set out in Annexure A, or indicate that it does not have such information, in which case it should indicate its plan to ascertain the information in order to facilitate a meaningful consultation process. You recall this application?
I recall it, Advocate. I recall it.
Now, the central issue in this matter was whether the department was placing patients who were in Life Esidimeni, in one of their facilities, in Takalani. Whereas the department's position was that the patients were discharged by Life Esidimeni. Is that correct?
It's correct, yes.
And this matter gave rise to, well, first of all, let's just identify some documents. At page 18697.
8697.
The page number looks wrong. Just give me a second. It's 186, beg your pardon, lady. It's 18694 is the answering affidavit, and you are the deponent to that answering affidavit. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then at 18916.
18916. Okay.
Yeah, I'm just checking that again, that I've got the
Okay,
right page.
we're there.
I think that's the wrong page reference. Just give me a moment. I'm looking for the judgment, which I had noted was that page, but it's not that page. 189.
18916. I think it's 18916. We there where it says
It is 18916.
No, 16. I'm indebted to my learned friend and Dr. Silabana. Thank you. This is actually the page of it. All right, thank you. So this is the judgment issued by the learned
That
judge.
is the judgment is on which page?
It commences at page 18916, my lady.
916 not.
Yeah.
Yes, continue.
And this was an this was a judgment by His Lordship Mr. Justice Valley, and the application was dismissed. Is that correct, Mr. Silabana?
Yes,
Dr. Silabana?
That's what I meant, yes.
We see that at page 18926. All right. Now, following the dismissal of that application, Dr. Silabana, when, to your recollection, when did you first become aware of allegations? And I purposefully say allegations because you would have received information, not necessarily being able to verify facts immediately. But when did you first become aware of allegations that, as a result of mental health care patients being moved from any of the Life Esidimeni facilities to NGOs pursuant to the project, that some of them had passed away? In other words, that there was a causal connection between the termination of the contract and the removal of patients from Life Esidimeni's facilities to one or other NGO. Can you recall when you first became aware of that?
Yeah, it should be around August 2016 when it was in the newspapers and the political parties in the legislature were raising the matter that patients of Life Esidimeni patients have passed away. That is August. It could probably even be late August.
Yes.
That was when I got to know about that.
And were you did you take any action in response to those reports at the time?
Yes. Firstly, I mean, ordinarily, myself and the MEC met, and Dr. Lebet and other senior managers, I think the DDGs now only. And something that's never reported. Then we also met with MEC Sizakele. She was with the public safety. I recall that we then asked, she met with us and the police officers, high police officers, and we reported the matter also to them. Pity, it's very, I don't have the minutes of that. And then we also been agreed there that we should have postmortems of all the patients. MEC Sizakele can confirm that. I'm sure the MEC would also recall that we met at that office. These are some of the things that we did. And then ordinarily, then we wanted to know what happened, where are the deaths, and that's when we got reports about that.
Yes. And then on receiving further reports about the deaths, was any action taken in relation to the rolling out of the project or the, let me rephrase that.
By that time, Advocate, I think the patients had already been moved from Life Esidimeni. So with all the parliamentary questions, how many patients and all that, then I, myself and the managers, myself and the managers and the MEC, I'm speaking about myself, then we agreed that it might also help that we close some of the, we go to the NGOs. I think this is towards the end of September now. But there had been also lots of discussions between myself over the phone with the minister, where I kept on telling the minister, talk to the MEC. You can't instruct me. You must tell the MEC to instruct me. Then we went, I recall it was on a Saturday, and MEC went that way. I went that way. Other colleagues went that way. I was with Professor Ataimani, the chief psychiatrist from Medunsa, and we went to the Tshwane area and closed. Literally, your ladyship, we just went and moved patients into our hospitals. I called a meeting with, on Sunday morning, this is Saturday, I called a meeting with the CEOs of Tshwane, Vescopis, Tshwane District, Kalafong, and everybody there. We sat there, and the good doctor from Vescopis said, let's remove all the patients from these NGOs around here. And that's what we did. Subsequent to that, I think during the week, I was in Soweto and I removed other patients to Sterkfontein.
All right. You mentioned the beginning of your answer that you'd had interactions with the national minister. I assume that's the National Minister of Health at the time.
That's right. That's right. Yes.
That would have been Minister Aaron Motsoaledi.
That's correct.
And are you at liberty to say what was the nature of that interaction?
I mean, we're talking constantly. I might not recall the actual discussions, but the gist, he was saying, Bani, you are a doctor, we're having patients who are passing away. It will not go well for the department and for the country. You've got to remove all those patients. And I remember our discussion, I was also on the way to CCRC, or is it CRCC, Kalinen. And he said, go and close Kalinen. And I said, Minister, I can't close a health establishment. I don't have those powers. You can close it with the Premier. I can't do it. But I went there, nevertheless, and found what was happening there and corrected where I could correct. This is just a 1 day, 2-3 hour visit. I was alone. And but he kept on talking. We were talking as a doctor. I talked to you, Dr. Silabano, as a doctor. Let's agree. Your MEC is not a doctor. She may not understand. I said, I hear, Minister, and I see your point, but still you've got to talk to the minister, to the MEC. I can't.
Yeah, so you You said earlier that you said to the minister you couldn't take instructions from the minister, you had to take instructions from the MEC.
That's correct, yes.
Perhaps I overstated that. You said you couldn't take instructions from him, that he needed to talk to the MEC. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes. It's important. I mean, that's how it works. I report to the MEC. They are politicians, remember, both of them.
Okay. All right. My lady, could I ask for just the opportunity to caucus with my team before we take matters further? I
Okay,
need
you may do so.
just a minute or two. I'm not asking for you to
Okay,
adjourn.
that's fine. You may do so.
Thank you, my lady. Thank you. I'm indebted to your ladyship. Lady, that concludes our leading of Dr. Silabana. And according to my understanding, my lady, each of my learned friends who wishes to cross-examine Dr. Silabana is required, in terms of your ladyship's earlier directive, to indicate the areas they wish to cover and to what end, or at least it should be apparent to what end, so that we don't have a repeat of the very wide-ranging cross-examination that happened prior to your ladyship's directive.
Yes, okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, madam.
If I may find out, as far as I can recall, when I requested the team to proceed with the evidence of Dr. Silabana last week, I think there was a request by others that they would love to be given an indulgence before they cross-examine. So I'm not sure if they are ready to proceed. You can just indicate if you are ready. I see there was Ms. Govender, and I see there is also a hand by Ms. Bandlender. If I may find out, Ms. Govender, that's fine.
As it pleases the court, my lady. My lady, I just wanted to indicate that we don't have any questions on behalf of Ms. Matlango at this juncture. However, we would like to listen to the cross-examination of everyone else. And if anything contentious emerges, we would like to go last, my lady.
Okay.
As the court pleases.
Ms. Bandlender.
Thank you, my lady. My lady, you will recall that last week, Ms. Hassam on our behalf indicated that we would ask to go after Ms. Mahlangu's representatives and also after Dr. Manamela's counsel. That position still stands. And in fact, hearing the evidence today, I intend to ask that we go later because we actually need some time to consider the evidence that was led today. But perhaps we should just hear who else is ready to proceed at the moment. But we are not ready at this point to proceed, my lady.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Van Bengen.
Thank you, my lady. My lady, you will recall with respect that I was also one of those who asked to be afforded an opportunity to prepare properly if necessary. I'm happy to state at this stage that I do not have any questions for this witness at this point in time. I may request an indulgence at a later stage, should it become necessary, to ask questions, but I don't anticipate that that will become necessary, as your ladyship pleases.
Thank you. Mr. Pina?
May it please the court, my lady, I would seek an indulgence to proceed with cross-examination, should it be necessary, once all the other parties have finalised their cross-examination. May it please the court, my lady.
You want to do it at the end?
Yes.
So everyone wants to be at the end. If I look at everyone, we will have a problem with the sequence, but the court will have to deal with that because everyone wants to go to the end. If I may, but I'll just indicate that you are now also reserving.
May it please the court, my lady. I'm indebted to your ladyship.
Okay. Yes. I see it's a few minutes before 1 o'clock, but before we break we take the lunch adjournment, I just want to find out, before I go to the sequence, is there anybody who still wants an indulgence to proceed, or is there anybody who is ready to proceed today? Is my question clear?
Thank you, my lady.
Mr. Pichela?
My lady, I was going to take the opportunity during the lunch break to obtain some instructions with regard to the witness.
Yes.
So far, I don't see any issues with his testimony, but there might be things that need him to confirm. For example, the exchanges that may have occurred between him and any particular witness that I represent.
Okay. Noted. Can I check with the others? Anyone? Yes, Ms. Mahlape.
May it please the court, my lady. At this point in time, my lady, we do not have any questions for Dr. Silibano. However, should it become necessary, of which we don't anticipate, then we reserve our rights to do so. For now, my lady, we have no questions for Dr. Silibano.
Thank you. Anybody else?
As the court, please, my lady, add Makani for Dr. Manamela. At this stage, we do not have any questions. However, we reserve our rights in the event that we feel that new information has arisen where we would want to seek clarity or ask questions on it.
Thank you. Ms. Mboweni? Yes, Ms. Mboweni, I saw your hand was up. I've also noted Ms. Seboko. Yes, Ms. Mboweni, I don't hear you. I don't know whether you are muted, but I don't know if your colleagues can hear you. I can't hear you at all.
I can't hear her, my lady.
Just check your connectivity, Ms. Mboweni, while I take Ms. Seboko.
As the court pleases, my lady, I have no questions for the witness.
Yes, Ms. Mboweni. I don't know whether she has opted to exit the meeting and rejoin me. I've noted you, Mr. Profi. Can I see also more hands? Just to hear what your intentions are so that when we resume, we know where to start. Yes, Mr. Van Bergen, I've also noted you. Any more hands? Ms. Govender, I've also noted you. I see other people are quiet. I want to know whether is there anyone who's ready to proceed today, or do you still seek an indulgence not to cross-examine today, maybe start tomorrow if you have cross-examination? Yes, Ms. Munjerere, Mr. Shabangu, I've noted you. Can I go back to, please remind me if I've forgotten you. I must go back to Ms. Mboweni first. Is she there?
My lady, I've been able to communicate with Ms. Mboweni. She does not have any questions for this witness.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Profi.
As the court pleases, my lady, I just await an instruction from one NGO, but as things currently stand, I have no questions for this witness.
Yes, and there was Ms. Govender.
My lady, the reason that I turned my screen on, or put my hand on rather, was because I think at some stage we really need to determine the order concerning this cross-examination.
No, I had not yet started there. I just want to know who is ready, because I know people requested that they be given an indulgence. So that is the reason why I'm doing this. The order will be determined when everyone is afforded the opportunity to cross-examine.
As the court pleases, my lady.
Yes. Thank you. I see there was Ms. Toka. Am I correct? I think Ms.
Yes, my lady.
Gerere. Did I
Yes, please,
forget
the
you?
court. Yes, please, the court, my lady. I don't have any questions for this witness.
Okay. Yes, Ms. Toka.
May it please the court, my lady. My lady, I do not have the questions for the witness, and I don't foresee that I'll have any.
Okay, thank you.
As the court pleases, my lady.
Yes, Mr. Shabangu.
As a court, my lady, at this stage, I do not have any questions. However, I reserve my right, my lady, to anything that might lead to cross-examine, my lady.
Yes, Ms. Maite.
May it please you, my lady, I too wish to indicate that I do not have any questions for the witness at the moment.
Yes, anybody else? I see. Mr. Manamela, are you there? Nelisiwe, did he complete the attendance register? Was he there?
No, Judge was not in the roll call.
If I may check with those NGOs that do not have legal representation, just to find out if they would have cross-examination. I think Dr. Kekana. Will you have cross-examination of the witness? Hence, we can hear you. If you can just indicate to one of, yes, I just see a hand. I don't know what is the meaning of that. Anybody can find out from her as to what is it that he was to convey to the court. And then we also have Mr. Veselo.
No questions, Your Honor.
I don't know if I've left anybody else. I would like that propose that we take the lunch adjournment here and then check after 2 as to whether, or I don't know whether should we resume tomorrow or today, just for us to check who's ready to cross-examine the witness. Will it be proper if we resume tomorrow?
If I may, my lady.
Yes, Ms. Banleni.
Just from my own notes, I may have missed something, but it did seem that no one else indicated that they definitely want to cross-examine.
A lot of them, but some, like yourself and others, they would want to cross-examine at the end. I don't know what at the end would mean, because it looks like Mr. Makani's team, Dr. Manamela's team, they do not have questions at this stage. So I don't know who would want to proceed. And I see even Mr. Pina has indicated that for now he's reserving, but would, if there is, he would indicate as to whether he will proceed or not. So
in that, sorry, my lady.
Yes. I'm just checking here. And Mr. Van Bergen has indicated that he's reserving, but for now he doesn't have questions. So yes, let me hear you then.
In that case, my lady, I was going to suggest that we stand down till tomorrow morning, so that whatever instructions need to be taken by any of the parties, myself included, we can do that this afternoon and be ready to proceed tomorrow.
I think even Mr. Pichela also indicated that he would want to obtain instructions. So is that fine with the others if you are given the whole afternoon for today, and then tomorrow we continue with cross-examination of this witness, whoever could be ready to proceed?
May it please the court, my lady, I would submit that would be in order, my lady.
Thank you very much. On this note, the witness is warned to be here tomorrow again at 10 o'clock. And remember the oath that you have taken. As I warned you, the same oath will prevail. So the proceedings are therefore adjourned to tomorrow morning for the cross-examination of the witness. Thank you very much.
May it please the court.
Thank you, my lady.
Yes, court, please.
As the court pleases.
May it please the court,
As the court, please, my lady.